Finance Committee. The purpose of the meeting, obviously, is to go over the override. What is an override? Why are we doing it, etc. I will introduce the people at this table. Jennifer James, Lauren Wilcox, the HR Director, Select Board Molly Keegan, Jane Nevin-Smith, myself, Randy Iser. Normally this is coffee for a cop. We have a cop, but no coffee. We also have an acting town administrator, Mike Mason. On that table, Paul Benjamin is leaving. Peter Matusko and our finance director, Linda Sanderson. And with that, Mr. Mason will lead the show for us.
And just quickly before Mr. Mason starts, I just want to let everybody know that I do have a family commitment that's going to cause me to leave at 3:15. When you see me leaving, I just wanted you to understand I'm not running away, but I didn't want to be rude. Okay.
And if you have questions, feel free to ask them, but be aware that you will be given a microphone so that everybody can hear. So wait till you get handed the microphone if you want to ask a question.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. So this is our fourth and final, thankfully, final public forum. I'm happy for two reasons. Number one, it's the last one. And number two, it's in the middle of the day, so there's a good chance nobody had a few drinks and brought rotten tomatoes to throw at me. Share my screen. Good? Perfect. All right. Now I got to find the PowerPoint again. Okay. So, thank you all for coming. I think that'll go away. Will that go away, Alex?
A little more. Just pass your mouse over it and probably. Over here.
We can get it on the bottom.
I can't even find where it's showing that, buddy.
Seniors aren't the only one with technical problems.
Oh, there it goes. Thank you.
There you go, Alex.
All right, Alex. Yeah. All right. So, welcome everybody. We're gonna go over, as Randy said, we're gonna go over the override information. Okay, this is a pretty short PowerPoint. It's only about 15 or so slides. We'll go through all the slides. If there's something really pressing that you'd like to ask, please let me know. We can certainly stop. But we've left plenty of time at the end of every one of these public hearings to ask questions and have the Select Board and the Finance Committee answer questions. And we have Linda here as well for any of your data-based type questions. So. What is a Prop 2.5 override and real estate tax rate? So there's a difference between a Prop 2.5 and the actual override part of this. Many years ago, the state allowed for what is called a Prop 2.5. And essentially, in its simplest terms, what that means is that the community that adopts a Prop 2.5 allows its tax base to increase by 2.5% annually. The idea behind that is so that as revenues come in and as you determine what your expenses are, the 2.5 is supposed to allow you to automatically kind of keep up with inflation. All right? What has happened in Hadley over the past many years, and in probably many other communities, especially with the hikes in our health insurance, is that the costs of everything and inflation have gone up, and the 2.5 is there's a gap that has occurred. The 2.5 is not keeping up with what it costs to run the community. As far as the override part of it, that's what we're here to talk about today. So what we're asking for is an override of the 2.5. That is a permanent increase in your tax rate. And the number that we have selected, which we'll get to in a minute, is essentially what the math shows that we need to get back to zero. We're looking for the amount of money to get back to even so that as the 2.5 increases and inflation happens and things get more expensive, we can keep up with it. Now, what's a real estate tax rate and how that works into this whole equation? A real estate tax rate is the amount of tax stated in terms of a unit of the municipal tax base, and in Massachusetts, that's usually represented and explained as dollars per thousand of your assessed value. This bottom bullet point is important because we're going to get into discussing what the override is going to cost you a little bit later in the slideshow. And a tax rate is calculated by dividing the amount of revenue a city or town needs by the total taxable valuation of the properties within the municipality. Each one of your properties and your valuation is done annually, and that determines your 2.5. So one of the points I want to make is that the numbers that you are going to see here today are the numbers that we can calculate at this point in time. They are only the numbers that are what the override is going to cost you. Okay? We can't calculate effectively and efficiently what everyone's 2.5 is going to be because we don't know what your assessed value is. And we are only a month and a half or so into the budget cycle, and there are a number of other things that play into what the tax rate is and how it is set. So again, I'm going to remind you several times as we go through this that we can only calculate what the override amount is. All right, there are two components to the override that the town is going to be asking for from you folks. The first part is for general operations, okay? This is your day-to-day operations of your town. It includes all of your public safety departments, it includes your schools, it includes DPW, it includes inspections, it includes town hall departments, every department that has some type of day-to-day effect on the community. The second part of it is what's called the Capital Maintenance Fund. We don't really have a great name for it. Later in the slideshow, there is. It actually, we will talk about it and explain it. But this is an account that we actually already have, and essentially, it just doesn't have a lot of money in it. What we would like to do is ask for a completely separate from the operations request override vote to put approximately $300,000. I shouldn't say approximately, exactly $300,000 in this capital maintenance fund. What this account is used for is for building repairs, like major building repairs, roofs and things like that, equipment replacement, infrastructure upkeep if we need water pipes replaced and things like that. Currently, because of the fact that we don't have money in this account, Linda has to borrow for anything that is approved from that capital line. So for those of you who go to town meeting, usually every fall we have a menu of capital items which folks can vote on. DPW, tractors, fire trucks, things like that. The town decides whether or not we want to spend this money, and ultimately, because there is no money in the account, we have to borrow for it. What we're hoping to do with this is to put money into an account so that we can buy things with cash instead of having to borrow for them. So that's what that part of it is. There are three parts to the operational request. This is the first one. We'll get to that in a second, but I just want to remind everyone that both of those votes are separate, and they will occur in two places. We have to put both of those questions on at town meeting. We'll give you the date and time at that at the end. If one or both of those pass at town meeting, it then goes to a ballot. So it's just like if you're voting for president or whatever, you go into the ballot box and you will check yes or no for whichever or neither one of those overrides that you want. If neither one of them pass town meeting, there's no ballot vote to worry about. If one of them is, that's the only one that you'll see at the ballot box. Okay, so just so everybody understands, they have to pass in both places in order for any of these to be enacted. Okay? So, moving forward, there is three parts to this general fund request. That number on top is the total general fund request that the town is asking for. $2,250,624. There are three different places that generally speaking, we need this money for. This is the first. The fire department has doubled in size over the last 3 years. We have added a number of firefighters to make a 24/7 fire department. For those of you who've been around long enough, you remember that the fire department for many, many years was a call force fire department with 1 or 2 full-time individuals. Currently, you have a full-time 24/7 fire department. Part of the responsibilities of those firefighters is a second call basic life support ambulance. The town contracts out to Action Ambulance right now. That is your primary advanced life support ambulance. They're the ones that will be showing up first if something bad happens to anyone. The firefighters who work for the fire department currently are your second call, and they are a basic life support ambulance. So if someone falls and breaks an arm, they can handle those types of things. They can also do an advanced life support intercept, so if something really tragic happens, they can get you to the hospital using advanced life support intercepts. The problem is that when these individuals were hired, the money was never put into the budget to account for that. So that number on top, $579,435, is the salaries of those individuals who were never included in the budget. That's the first part of this. Here's the second part. The second part is $824,404 for increased operational expenses. That is made up by these two numbers at the bottom. $338,404 is monies that are needed for school and town operations to be able to continue into the future fiscal year. What we did was in the normal budget process that occurred when we put the FY26 budget in front of everyone here in May, we made a lot of cuts to that budget. We made a lot of cuts just to balance the budget, just so we could put a balanced budget in front of you. A lot of these town departments came to us and said, we're not going to make it through the fiscal year, and if we make it through the fiscal year, we're certainly not going to make it through the next fiscal year. That was right around the time when we really started to ramp up discussions about whether or not we needed an override. And so what we did was we put all the department heads through another budget process. Anyone that said that they needed more additional funds came and met with Linda and I. We went through their entire budget. They made requests. We made cuts to those requests a second time, and then it went through the same process that every other budget goes through, which means it went to Finance Committee and it went to Select Board. That's how we ended up with the number right here. The bottom part of this has two parts to it. When we put together the FY26 budget, and again, just so folks understand, fiscal years run July 1 to June 30th. They don't run by calendar years. So we are currently in fiscal year 26, which began July 1 of this year. Just prior to the start of the fiscal year, we learned that the Hampshire County Health Insurance Trust, Group Insurance Trust, needed additional funds from all 70 some odd members of the trust. They are essentially going to go out of business. The only alternative to us is to try to find another trust, which all of the trusts are experiencing the same thing, or to cover any health insurance claims that we have on our own, which is a gigantic question mark and would probably cost us 10 times as much. They notified us of a $330,000 increase right down here just prior to the budget starting. We were able to insert that money into the budget. We did have to use free cash. We'll explain free cash in a few minutes. After the budget cycle began, and right around the time we were discussing with the department heads how much they would need to get into the next fiscal year, we were notified of an additional mid-year health insurance increase, which is essentially unheard of $486,000. That is due in October 1, I believe. That we did not have the money for. That is part of what makes up this $824,404. That is a mandatory cost that we must come up with. We were also warned that on July 1st of the future fiscal year, so next July 1, we should all expect another double-digit increase to those health insurance costs. We don't even know what that number is going to be at this point. So here is the final part of the general operation request. Free cash. I'll get into exactly what free cash is in a minute, but we used $846,785 of free cash. That was all of the free cash that we had. We used every penny of it. We used it for these three things in a general sense. We used it for that first health insurance increase. Several years ago, the town, the select board began a employee compensation study to measure our staff across town with employees in other comparable communities. Over 100 some odd employees were included in that study, and it resulted in increases of approximately $250,000. And then the balance in free cash usage, which was carried over from the prior year, was also used. In order to move into FY27, we're in 26 right now, even if we didn't ask for all of this override, we need this free cash to be able to move forward. Historically, this town has used free cash to balance the budget, basically balance budgets. Linda puts together a budget. That budget has a shortfall. Oftentimes what was done is we would use free cash to balance the shortfall, to close the delta, so to speak. In the past handful of years, the Finance Committee and the Select Board have decided and determined that doesn't make good fiscal sense, and it is not among the best practices. So they've been trying to use less and less of it, and then we hit this wall where we had to use all of what we have. The worst part about it is that as we move into the fall of this current year, it is when we get our free cash certified. And we're looking at a lower amount of free cash. We're predicting a lower amount of free cash certified, probably somewhere in the area of pre-COVID times, 300 to 500,000. So this 846 was huge for us to have, and then we had to spend it all, and we're going to get back, 300,000 or 400,000. Sir.
Quick question. The $250,000 employee compensation, is that typically what you see every year?
No. What the compensation study? Yeah.
You're trying to replenish your free cash here, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That,
No, that was to bring employees up to comparable, to the standard, but the standard is still, this town selected, the select board, generally speaking, selected somewhere in the area of the 75th percentile of what other communities are. 50th? 50th percentile. So we're about halfway compared to other communities, and that is the increase that jumped us to that.
based on the study?
Correct.
Okay, but what are you projecting?
For all staff raises, I can get that number for you. I don't know it off the top of my head.
It's in the budget, so already it's been built in.
Yeah, all the budgets have it built in, but they're all built separately in each budget.
But you're asking for a big increase of over 2.5% here. Is that going to, it seems like, we're going to be taxing everybody a lot more, but the increase of I'm just saying, is that $250,000 increase every year?
No. No,
less?
that was a Paul, that was a big jump to get people to where they are.
This is to catch up with wage inflation, which you've heard about.
Yeah.
So once we're there, that's the new foundation. So the 2.5% every year should include the fact that when we negotiate raises, annual raises, and what have you, with the contract, should include the fact that we only have a 2.5% increase for it. This was something to catch us up, to preserve, to create a situation where our employees weren't going to necessarily make a lot more money if they left us. And also for the positions that we needed to fill because of attrition and retirement, that we could attract people with salaries that was, comparable in the middle of what's being offered. And hopefully the other things about working in Hadley and being here and serving this population is enough to make up for the difference if you're not the highest paid in that category.
No, understand.
I think what you're asking, is it a one-shot deal?
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
one-shot
It's a
deal,
one-shot.
but
It's
whatever
just to
we
bring us up.
approve this year, next year, year after.
No, not like that.
There will be normal raises going forward.
That's really normal.
3%
We're stuck with
now.
this increase.
2-3%, whatever the union contracts provide, and then we try to match that with the rest.
Mr. West.
You just said, and how did you expect to pay for it? You hired 3 new people for the fire department. When you hired them,
It was closer to
2 or 3 years ago,
6. How many people were hired? 4.
how did you expect to pay for that? As a town? Listen, we're in this spot, and it's up to the boards in town and the selectmen. I see the board I was on for 10 to 12 years doesn't mind just adding more money on. But where the heck is the money coming from?
So when we started this, we were hopeful because of the ambulance committee indicating that we would be able to get enough revenue from the ambulance receipts. We are getting revenue from ambulance receipts, but not quick enough to cover this, and this is what we're doing to reimburse our free cash and to put these people in a budget line. We should have put them in a budget line when we started. It was a mistake, and we're correcting it.
The reason, however, that it wasn't in the budget, it was set up as separate in an article, was because that was going to go away. Well, it was covered by ambulance revenues. It was not going to need to go into the budget at that expense. It would be a wash. So in the meantime, rather than increase the budget artificially by $600,000, it was voted separately by the town as an article to be funded from free cash. Well, what was expected to be a 2 or 3 year process to get to the point, as James said, that where the revenues from the ambulance services would cover it. It did appear it was going to be that way at the time, when it came out with the new projections in March of this year. Immediate steps were taken to change the direction of that department, to the disappointment of many. We're sort of at the point now where we're trying to make lemonade out of the lemon situation and say, well, at least we have a 24/7 department and they're able to apply to provide BLS services. Let's bring it back to the town to see if they want to continue with this staffing level so they have 24/7 fire and EMS coverage that they never had before, 24/7 coverage. So this is an opportunity. We are currently staffed. Do you want to continue it or do you not? So it is going back to the voters to make that decision, and then we'll take it from there.
The problem we got, and apparently as we out here look at this, our town government really doesn't care about us.
We do.
Okay, you do, but
Mr. West, you people sitting out in the audience are the town government. You vote, you make the decisions.
In addition to which, we care about you enough that in the last 45 years, that it's been 43 years that Proposition 2.5 has been in effect, this town has never once passed a Proposition 2.5 override. Never. We're one of 2 towns in the Commonwealth who have not done that.
you're saying we have never passed one?
We tried, you said no. And so we went and we squeezed the belt tighter, and all of the belt squeezing that we have done all of these years to keep from raising the taxes in Hadley has now turned around, and we're at a place where we have to have the money to continue operating at the level we're operating. We're not going to add anything new. We decided last night at a joint meeting with the Finance Committee, we're going to be really careful about what we spend and how, even more so than we are now, because we don't want to ask you for more money. We're asking for this amount once, and we will not be coming back to ask again if it passes.
Are you going to try to tell us right now, next year and the year after, we won't have ask for another override?
Unless,
This one, that's correct.
right. The whole point of this one, and part of the reason for the magnitude that you're looking at, is what Jane said. We want this once and done. Believe me, I mean, we're all residents sitting up here. We don't like this any better than anybody out in the chairs that we're looking at right now. So the whole goal is to, as we've referred to it as, this is a perfect reset. So we stop the reliance on free cash. We take care of the unexpected medical claims, et cetera. The staffing study's already done, it's behind us. What I can't look at you, Art, and say is, I mean, if something comes out of left field, like the magnitude you're seeing on the medical, I mean, in good conscience, I can't say never, but I can tell you from a prudent fiscal planning standpoint, we truly believe this is a once and done, and we're not going to be having this conversation anytime in the near future.
As I sit here and I don't know everything going on in town or anything else, we hired 3 new guys, 4 guys for the fire department. I see we got a new tractor to run around, mow the lawns along the road. The one we had only did that, so it never got used. And now they tell me it's sitting down in the garage, not being used for anything. You got a garage full of new trucks. Any person in this room could never buy them. This boy just tried to tell me he tried to have the trim of his house painted. The guy only wanted $14,000. Where's the crazy spending gonna stop?
The town votes for all of those trucks you're talking about, and can the town administrator continue with the presentation, and then we ask more questions later?
All right.
Thank you.
So the question I have is, besides property taxes, where does the town get money to support the budget? I mean, businesses?
So, the tax level that supports our, so consider our budget 20, sure. So for our budget of almost $23 million, almost $16 million comes from taxes. Okay, $15,800,000 is projected to come from real estate and personal property taxes and new growth that's projected for the year. We get a little over $1 million in state aid for that I think that goes back to the lottery funds or something many years ago, but the state does distributions of aid to the towns, and our take is between $1 million and $1,100,000. We have a good chunk, $4.5 million, of what we call local receipts, and those are the ones that really are very dependent on our local economy. It includes anything from motor vehicle excise tax, rooms and meals excise tax, all the fees collected by departments. So if you're getting a building permit or something from the Board of Health, you're writing a check out to the town for any other reason, your dog license, it's collected by people in town hall, it's collected by the fire department, by the police department. So that adds up to $4.5 million. We get about $500,000 back from the enterprise funds, which are not the budget that we're going through today, the water and sewer and cable even, our enterprise funds, the funds that pay for themselves, but they don't have they don't have the administrative overhead from town hall and we do the collections. So there is an allocation back to the general fund budget to reimburse the town for some of the expenses it pays. So those all add up to almost $22 million. And then if I have a $23 million budget, we're looking for free cash or some other miscellaneous expenses that might come in.
Did you want to see
No, let's go back to
this one?
yeah. Well, I think.
Oh, you want me to,
Yeah,
want
why
me
don't
to
you
work
just-
my way to it? Okay.
Yeah, work my way to
All
it,
right.
I guess, at this point.
All right, I think this is where we left off. Okay, so here is, we just went over all of these numbers, but this is a kind of a different way to look at it and then kind of an easier way for me to explain it. The grayed out column there is the FY26 budget voted at the annual town meeting back in May with that $846,000 in free cash as far as the needs go. The column on the right-hand side, the white column, shows the additional needs based upon what the department heads, as well as the mandatory costs that popped up on us. We would like to replenish that $846,000 in free cash so that we can set the town up for the future, so that we don't have to worry about asking for another override. The request for the fire department, again, is that $579 that we went over earlier. That's the cost of the salaries of those firefighters. The $338,404, that's the cost of the rest of the town departments. And then that $486 is that mid-year health insurance increase. We were able to put the $330 into the current budget, but this is the portion this is the mid-year increase. And that is your total at the bottom, that $2,250,624. Yes. Yeah.
Wait for the microphone.
So with these new expenses, and we're a month and a half into the new year, you didn't know about these at the town meeting and they weren't up for a vote in May?
So
These are all new things that you just learned about in the last month and a half?
the health insurance, yes.
Yeah?
The fire department, we just went over the reason behind that not having been in the budget. The $846,000 in free cash was used for that meeting, for that budget, to balance that budget. And the $338,404 essentially are all the cuts that we made to the other departments that prohibit them from moving into the next fiscal year appropriately. So we're asking for those funds back.
Back. Okay, and but they weren't up for a vote in the town meeting, or they were voted down in the town meeting?
No, the budget that we put in front of you at the town meeting, this was the only way to balance it. This was the only way to give you a balanced budget at the town meeting.
After the meeting,
Say that again?
after the meeting. Town meeting was done, and then the balance of budget you needed this month.
Nope.
No.
Nope. This is what the budget that was put in front of you folks to vote on in May was balanced based upon the cuts that we made
With the use of the free cash.
and all of the free cash.
Yep, and at town meeting, I believe, the statement was made at town meeting that we had concerns and we weren't sure how we were moving forward, and we would likely be coming back with a new plan. So, you know, at least there was some context put into it before people voted on it as well. I think we sent a clear message. We knew we were in trouble. We just didn't know how deep it was.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we keep saying we gave you a balanced budget. The state requires that we have money to pay for what we're going to spend. So that's the balanced budget. We didn't have money to include these other things, hence we reduced a lot of the operating budgets. So there's some departments that can't pay for their phones for the rest of the year. Little things, but they all add up when you go across the whole town.
This next slide gives you a little bit better idea, broken down a little bit more without breaking it out completely. This 338,404 over here, this kind of helps break that out so you can see where that money is going. $60,000 to general government, which is basically your town hall departments, your council on aging departments, your library, places like that. The public safety, the vast majority of that obviously is those fire department personnel, police dispatch, and inspections. Education, so school, $130,000 back to them. Public Works needs money returned back to them, and it just kind of breaks it out so you have that total at the bottom there. And then the benefits line that we obviously can't get around. So that, in essence, is the operational side of things. Here is the Capital Stabilization Fund request. This again is that $300,000 request. This was unanimously supported by both the Finance Committee and the Select Board. And these are kind of the things that they hope that it will do for us. It'll put us in a position, again, to buy things with cash as opposed to having to borrow for each and every item that is needed by by all the departments across town. Paul, is this the one that you wanted to see?
Yeah, I wanted to get into the tax rate because I think people need to understand.
So Paul, he'll dig into this a little bit deeper, but I just wanted to give everybody kind of a snapshot look of the tax rate in Hadley from 2003 all the way to present day. The highest the taxes were in 2004, and that was because the town built 2 buildings, Hadley Elementary School and the Public Safety Complex. As Jane had mentioned in the past, this town has never asked for or never gotten an operational override and has only asked once. This town does what's called debt exclusions. So they will request, they'll say, we need to build a school. This is what it's going to cost. This is what's going to go on your taxes. This is how long it's going to be on your taxes. And then it will drop off and your tax rate goes down. In 2008, you'll see that that was the lowest tax rate that we've had just in this bracket that we put up here, and that was, likely due to lower assessed values. And as you can see, the school and the safety complex are likely coming off of those rolls. And then all the way down at the end is your current tax rate of 1163. Paul?
Well, the next slide.
Next one.
One of the things you need to...
This one?
Yes. Yes, sorry. I'm Paul Benjamin. I know I had to walk out for a second. I had an electrician call me, and that's almost like a doctor for us. So I'm sorry. I'm the vice chair of the Finance Committee. This shows our tax rate compared to all the other Hampshire County towns except for Sunderland, which is Franklin. Okay? We're the lowest.
I think Leverett and Shutesbury are also Franklin
County?
all except for those 3.
But we have the lowest taxes. And here's how it happened. We don't spend a lot of money easily because you folks all vote on it every time. You voted for the fire department, you voted for this building, you voted for the school. It always comes to town meeting. And one of the things we did a few years ago when the ambulance service proposal came forward is because we thought there was going to be a lot of revenue coming in, we decided not to put it in the budget, but because it would be in a dedicated account, the revenues would ultimately, after a couple of years, pay for it. So rather than fund it, we would borrow money, essentially use our free cash, and at one point we used stabilization money to cover those costs. That didn't work because the revenues are not strong enough on the second call ambulance. But what we do get out of it is we get a full-time fire department, and all of our, I think almost all of the personnel are available when they're not at a fire to do a second call ambulance run. They're all trained for that. So we get additional ambulance service out of it, and we have a full-time fire department. But what has happened in this town is we've been using our savings accounts to balance the budget. When I was a kid, I used to get presents like a $25, what do they call double E bonds? Do you remember those things? And you put them in a safe deposit box instead of a toy, okay? And once in a while, my dad would take me over and I'd see this pile of these things, $25.50, $25.50, right? And then I wanted to buy a bike. Well, I didn't have the money. So can I cash a couple of those bonds? And over time, of course not. Well, no, he let me do it because I had a couple of them, okay? But I did get a job, okay? But what we did here is to not raise your taxes. The town used your savings account to reduce it. Now, was that a terrible thing to do? Yes and no. Because back then, we had a lot of free cash.
Can we go forward to the free cash, just so you understand? We haven't explained what free cash is. Free cash is the extra money at the end of the year, it has to be certified by the state, that we take in from, we haven't spent money that we thought we were going to spend. So let's say we were going to buy some piece of equipment that was in the budget, or have a position filled that was in the budget, or something that we needed to spend money on that we all approved, but it didn't happen in the calendar year. So you roll that money back into the budget, but it goes into what we call free cash. All right? And when we get that, that number goes up and down. This is like a snapshot at the end of the year of how much free cash we had. We had a lot of free cash back then. So for us to say, oh, well, we need an extra $600,000 just to pay for everything we're committed to, well, we got 1.369 million there. Let's take 500 of it. Still leaves us with a savings account for an emergency. The problem is, in the last few years, I think we've all experienced it, this economy has flipped. Things are a lot more expensive. It's hard to get help. And our free cash has gone down, our annual end of year budget, because the cost of the things that we're trying to cover with free cash is costing us more. So last year we had 800 and something, what did we have?
834 is what we spent.
834. This year we're projected, and again, when we say year, it's July 1st to June 30th, and right now we're in calendar year 26.
We're in calendar year 25.
Fiscal year
and
26, even though right now we're still in 2025. Okay? So we're like a half a year ahead in the budget name. We only have a projected $400,000 that we're going to have at the end of the year. So if we don't replenish that $800,000 back in at the end of that calendar year, fiscal year, we're going to have a crisis for 27. We made a decision between these committees to put together these, write this situation, put money in the and we'll talk about the capital later, but to take our certified free cash and replenish it so that we have a savings account. So if we get hit with another big budget item like another major increase in health care before we find a new solution, hopefully more stable, okay, we will have the money to cover that. Because we don't want to come back to you, we don't think we will be able to come back to you and say we need a big increase again. We haven't done this ever. I've only lived in town for a little while, okay? We have low taxes because of that. We can't go backwards and say, well, we should have been charging you a little bit more than the 2.5 and retroactively vote it back and catch up. Then we wouldn't need this override because we'd have all that extra money. We can't do that. We have to, we're sort of facing a brick wall here. And the cost of, we don't want to take the almost $1.5 million, $2 million investment in our training, our personnel in the fire department, and the 2 ambulances we bought for phenomenally low amount of money, and throw it away. So what we have done is we compromised. We're not going to ALS, which would cost us a lot more in operational costs. We're staying at BLS, and we're asking you to vote that into the budget. And that way we have a full-time fire department, so after 7 o'clock, you don't have to wait for Amherst or the call service or whoever is going to cover us at night. We have a full-time fire department. I think that's something a town this size should have. I was surprised, honestly, I didn't even know after 7 o'clock, we didn't have a fire department, essentially, except for the chief and the deputy. On call. But not a full-time department. Okay. Somebody in the back there?
I just want to add one thing. The reason our free cash is less is because that's the money the departments return to the town. Because we've been squeezing the budgets down, there's less and less to return. A classic example of when there's a lot to return, we build into a budget overtime for DPW to do snow plowing. If we don't have a lot of snow in the winter, they return the money to the town budget. The free cash goes up. But we're budgeting less and less, so there's less money coming back.
I think I heard today that the amount of free cash that Hadley has on account by the state or gets audited determines our credit rating. So could you
Yes.
speak to that a little bit?
bond rating?
You want to take that?
The amount we have is certainly a factor in determining our bond rating, which determines the interest rates that we get when we do borrowing, either through short-term borrowing with bands or long-term borrowing through bonds, which is coming up next week. We actually have a bond that we are buying next week for $3 million. We're selling a $3 million bond, which is mostly a refinance. This is not all new. This is not new borrowing. We're gathering up our short-term borrowings and refinancing to get a better interest rate and to spread the borrowing out over a longer period of time. Which will then be able to decrease the amount of debt service in the budgets, hopefully, because you're spreading the borrowing out further. And so, yes, that is a factor, and this is a great day to give you the news that we just found out this morning that we have a AAA rating. I think it's been said at earlier forums that we've been able to maintain it for 6 years. We had another rating review hearing last week, and we're told we did get our AAA rating again. So I thought I was the only one that got excited about things like that, so thank you. But
That's nice.
it is.
That's nice. So all you just told us is now we as a town can go out and borrow some more money. Just spend money. What do we need to do now?
That's not true. You get to decide what we're borrowing money for. This is not. It's a democracy here. AAA rating is good. By the way, it's higher than the federal government's rating. So they could use our advice from Hadley. We are pretty well managed financially, but we're not perfect. And we don't get to decide everything that's being purchased. Department heads make their requests for capital art, and it goes before a capital planning committee, it goes before the finance committee, it goes before the select board, and it goes before town meeting. And it's ultimately, no matter what the others advise, it is the people who show up at town meeting who get to make those decisions. And if it needs a debt exclusion, if it's not something we can pay within the budget, it actually goes out for a ballot. Election has to be approved yet again, such as the fire engine. We voted it at a town meeting where, what was it, maybe 100 to 200 people. It goes out to a ballot election, over 1,000 people then get to then determine, yes, we do want to borrow it. Not everyone's going to be happy with every purchase. I will tell you quite honestly, I have not voted for everything that is passed in this town, and I don't think anyone here has. But as... There might be one or two, but the majority speaks. So,
Right.
Hang on, Art, we got somebody else.
Quick question. You got bar charts all over the place here. Do you have projections? And I know, listen, we're not in a perfect world here, but do you have projections on where the free cash will be fiscal 27, fiscal 28? I mean, barring any crazy abnormal.
Linda's best projections are 300 to 500,000 for this fall. We will likely need all of that to balance whatever occurs for the fall budget, and after that, I don't know how far you could project free cash. It's usually a handful of months in advance as opposed to years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What's going to do?
It depends on departmental spending and all of the other things. And it also will depend on the override, as Molly was just going to say.
I mean, bottom line is if, just given the numbers that have been put in front of you, if the override doesn't pass, we're obviously going to be in cost-cutting mode because we know we don't have enough to make it, fully through business as usual, if I can put it that way, for the remaining part of the fiscal year. So there is not going to be any money to turn back because the department's already short.
Right, okay. So. No, you never know when one of these $440,000 bills are going to come out of the sky, it seems.
Well, unfortunately, we know that there's another one coming. We just don't know how big it is. So another reason to make sure we have that.
Okay, thank you.
A question just came out of the back of my brain into the front. And the question is, if the override if the override is not passed, what's going to happen?
Well, you're only the second person to ask that question, actually, at four different meetings. So unfortunately, with the magnitude of shortfalls that we're looking at, with the fact that we have combed through the expense lines of every single budget, save the school, the only place to take a number that high is going to be from personnel. The select board is the governing authority when it comes to deciding where exactly those cuts will come from. As we stand right now, the funding that we require for the fire department will run out in the fall, meaning override or not, that their funding is done sometime in October or November, which means those positions will have to be eliminated if we don't figure out another way around it. If we do have to make those cuts again, what will happen is the shortfall will land in front of the select board and the finance committee, and they'll start deciding where it's going to come from. It will be widespread, though. My guess is they'll try to spread it out to make it as painless as possible as far as services go to the town residents, but it's a large amount of money.
And I think another thing that we haven't really mentioned yet right now is we haven't talked much about the schools. I mean, oftentimes when you read articles in the newspapers, it's, you know, many times these overrides are being driven by the school department. We've been fortunate, I guess if I could put it that way, that we have an unbelievably frugal and pragmatic school committee and superintendent. They've done an incredible job managing the, quite frankly, relatively low resources that are provided to them to provide the outcomes that they do in terms of the quality of education for all of our kids. But over the past decade, if not more, I'm dating back to when I was on school committee, more and more they've had to rely on the school choice funding. So the good news is Hadley's very attractive. We continue to bring in kids from other districts, you know, who want to be here, which is great. But unfortunately, because of the town funding has slowly crept down as a percentage of the school budget. And Chris, correct me if I say anything wrong here, but I think, right? So what's been happening is the school department is having to rely and spend more of that school choice funding. They've been able to get away with it to a point, but the superintendent has put us on notice that that is not sustainable for them. So right now, we're only talking $130,000 that we cut out of their budget that we're just trying to give back to them with this override. But certainly, if they don't get that back, I mean, we're going to be pushing them into quite a spiral too. So we actually have asked for a joint meeting with the school department just to make sure, you know, we're wrapping all of that in as well.
Peter.
Arthur, you were talking about what comes to the spending. Yes, our tax rate, it's great that it's, you know, 11.63, but with Route 9 and all the commercial, industrial, whatever we have down there, is about 25% of the town's revenue. So I've always said that it's not a revenue issue, it's a spending issue. Whether if it is on equipment, which yes, the taxpayers have voted on, or if it comes to hiring, but yes, that's where a lot of the money has been going. And that's what my thought was, is we're spending too much because we get a lot of revenues, but we're spending a lot. And I think it'll show more within the screens as to the hiring and where we go.
I want to go back to Barry's question, which is what happens. And the ugly piece is we have to lay people off. On the town side of the budget, there are 114 employees. An arbitrary number that has been thrown around because there are a lot of different things depending on a person's salary and whether they collect unemployment and other things, is between 25 and 30 people would be laid off if this does not pass.
Well, and just to be clear, because we also don't want to leave you thinking that the override vote fails and then it's lights out, right? The reality is that this is going to play out over a period of time, so there would be the immediate impacts that Mike mentioned in terms of which departments don't have the funding to get them through the year, and that's where obviously we would need to be starting to make cuts. But we're going to need to be proactive as a board, both boards, Finance Committee and Select Board, and start looking at FY27, right? Because that's really where the pain point's going to land. And so those decisions about where do we need to cut back on staffing are going to have to occur. And what that's going to mean for all of us is cutting in services at some level. And we'll have to, make our best pass at it and then bring that back, during the budget season to the taxpayers to see if you agree with us where those cuts have been made. And the challenge is that when you do cut personnel, unfortunately, now you have unemployment. So you cut out the salary and the benefits, but there's a layer on of an added expense to the town. So we start to get ourselves into, kind of a little bit of a mushrooming here. But again, it's not going to be Armageddon on day one, but it's going to be a painful couple of years.
Although we would go back to the budget initially. You already passed a budget in May. That budget would stand, but you have to understand that budget did not provide that for that extra $580,000 for the continuing the fire EMS department at that level. So there's no funding for that department. So that is step one, is that would get cut back. The $300,000 requested for other departments, that just wouldn't happen, and understand that nearly half of that is the school. And it would be nice if we could stay right there, that would be somewhat livable. But the problem is when we get that nearly $500,000 in additional insurance, that has to get paid. That's not like if you don't pass the override for the insurance, okay, we won't pay the insurance. No, unfortunately, the insurance amount has got to come and is declaring itself its own priority, which means we have to find another $400,000 in the budget that you passed in May that has to get cut out in order to accommodate the insurance. It may not be quite that high, especially if we're going to start losing employees that won't be taking. I mean, it's there's a lot of give in that kind of it's hard to calculate, but. We are probably looking at 400,000, which is why it translates into the number of layoffs. Now, the attempts would be made to do it with maybe not filling vacancies and sort of the ease into this. As Molly said, it's not going to be an immediate sword coming down. We will do our best to get through 26 with what has been funded, but there is no question that there are going to be layoffs mostly hitting us in 27, but they're going to have to begin in 26.
And something came up last night, excuse me, at our meeting, and I just want to make people aware. What we're telling you is reality. We're not trying to scare anybody. This is not threats or anything like that. This is the truth as it would play out if in each given situation.
Can I suggest, if we could, hold questions for a minute and let us move through the rest of this, because there's other information, and then go into a Q&A, just so that everybody can learn everything that we'd like to impart here.
Okay.
Take it over.
I'll be honest with you, we jumped around.
Yeah.
Jumped around a lot. I don't know if I missed something, but so this is the tax rate that Paul just went over really quickly. A few Franklin County towns, mostly Hampshire County towns. This is what your tax rate will look like if you pass the entire override. If you pass the operational override as well as the capital override, your tax rate will go from that 1160 number to 1357, and it will be still the second lowest amongst all those communities. Again, this slide shows basically what does it look like for me if we pass this entire override. And again, the entire override number on top is that 2.5 number that has the 300,000 for the capital on top of it. The reason that we picked these three assessed values is because Hadley's average assessed value is $460,000, somewhere around there. So the current tax rate is this 1163. If we pass the entire override, the tax rate will go to 1357. And then these will be kind of the repercussions for your annual over here on the left-hand side, and then your monthly. If you go on the mass.gov website, go right to the search bar and type in property tax calculator. It'll bring you right to the screen where you can put this in. You go to a drop-down screen, select Hadley. It'll put all of the actual Hadley numbers, your current tax rate and all that, and then it'll give you a list of these assessed values that go from, I think, 250,000 all the way up to 1.5 million, somewhere around there. And it will give you what the tax rate, or the tax bill, I'm sorry, would be, and then, your annual and monthly increase. And again, just a reminder, this is the override costs. So this is what the town is asking for. All right, what is free cash? We did go over this earlier, so I don't want to beat this too much. These are your unrestricted funds that can be used for any purpose. As we talked about earlier, there are some funds that are restricted. There are some types of monies that go into certain accounts that we can only use for certain purposes, like CPA and things like that. Free cash can be used for ultimately anything. And again, as we went over earlier, Paul brought this up, these are our certified free cash balances from FY20 up to 24. Just a reminder, this is somewhere closer to what we're expecting for this fiscal year as far as free cash being certified, probably 300 to 500,000. What is a stabilization fund? We discussed earlier Art's first question about the fire department. Why wasn't the fire department put into the budget? Ultimately, the plan for the fire department was to create that advanced life support ambulance, and they were going to take over the ambulance service for the town of Hadley. The Finance Committee and the Select Board got together, looked at all the numbers, and determined that we were going to change course. Previous to present day, the money to add that personnel was taken from this account. Okay, it was taken from your stabilization account. The best way to describe it, the most simple way to describe it is your rainy day fund. It's your emergency fund. The idea that they had at the time was that there was going to be revenue generation from the ambulance, that they were going to be able to pay back these amounts. They determined that that may not have been likely, and so again they decided to change course. So now we have to put those salaries from that fire department into the current budget. This is your stabilization account balances from FY20 up to 25. The money that was spent on the fire department actually reduced this number lower than it actually is right now, and that's because of the investments that our town makes. Linda is in charge of the investments for our community, and because of the investments that she has made, that account is actually higher than where it actually should be. So here's what we talked about way back at the beginning, a capital stabilization fund. Way back in annual town meeting in 2010, the town actually created this fund. And it was created for the purpose that we discussed in the beginning. Basically, we want to be able to pay for roof repairs and infrastructure collapses and dump trucks and fire trucks and things like that with cash, as opposed to having to borrow for them. Unfortunately, we haven't been putting money in this. As you can see, we had $118 in this account way back in FY20. Right now we have about $50,000, $60,000 in the account, and so ultimately what the town is looking to do is put a lump sum, a good chunk of money into this account, so that as the town moves forward, and again, as Linda mentioned, all these capital items do go in front of town meeting, so you get to decide what you spend the money on, and you get to decide if you want to put money into this account if you pass that capital stabilization override. So, believe it or not, there is some good news. Someone mentioned this earlier. The override does not include any new positions or any additional hours. It only maintains current staffing levels, so it will keep all of the staff across town that we have currently. and allow the departments to be able to operate as they are now. So the services that you see around town, your DPW, your fire, your police, your town hall, when you walk into town hall and you can pay a bill and see a real live person in front of you, those are the folks that you're paying for. All of the restaurants that we have in town are inspected and safe, so you can go eat at them because our Board of Health inspects those restaurants. That's what we're paying for, to make sure that we can keep that staff. As Linda mentioned earlier, we have maintained our bond rating, so we have a AAA bond rating, but again, as someone pointed out in the back of the room, your free cash deficits do affect your bond rating. We have 0 right now. So we want to make sure that we can get that back up to where it is, so as we move forward, we're in a better place as far as our bond rating goes, so that if we do have to borrow for things, we can borrow at a better rate. And the town has not had any layoffs or service cuts, including all the way back to COVID. So I think that's something that the Select Board and the Finance Committee can be proud of, that they were able to shepherd the town through those times and be able to provide the services that you had all along. Did you have something, Molly?
I do. How'd you know?
I could just tell.
Just thinking about that final bullet that Mike has up there about not having any layoffs or service cuts, and going back to the question about ramifications if the override doesn't pass, one of the other areas of concern for us as the management team, if I can put it that way, is, everybody, reads the news. So I think when you're looking to maybe get a new job and you decide where you want to be a school teacher, where you want to be a police officer, you want to be in the wastewater treatment plant, one of the things you're going to be looking at is to see how well the town supports its employees. And another concern is that if we do find ourselves in a situation where this override doesn't go through and we've needed to lay people off, we already have a difficult time recruiting. We're a small town. Even with those increases to bring people up to kind of like the 50th percentile, if you will, we're not paying top dollar here. And the workforce out there, it's slim for municipal jobs. So, we're very concerned about our ability, should we lose people, because, again, some people may leave if they think that, the town's probably not going to be giving great pay increases going forward either. They may go elsewhere. And again, we're going to get ourselves potentially into another difficult situation with staffing. So I just want to mention that as well.
What do you think our average pay in town is? 40,000? For anybody who works for the town?
Average pay?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, it's all over the place depending on the skill set and I'm not sure if they're...
I mean, 40,000's got to be up with the highest paid in the state almost.
Not even close out there. Think about doubling that.
My pay, my like that's been $1,000 a month. And still, I get 15 from the government. And I probably live better than anybody else in town. That's $1,000 a month. That's having 4 kids in 6 years with no insurance.
Yeah, with after having those kids being the operative there, I think they're a little bit more expensive when you're coming along, so. Was there a question?
Did you have one right here in the front? Oh, no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We have a couple of vacancies in town. Town administrator, thank you very much, and a senior center manager or head or whatever. I don't know, there's probably some others. Is that under consideration?
As far as filling them? So, yes, we are filling positions that we see a need for, a drastic need for currently. We are trying to be as judicious as we possibly can as we look for this, which is one of the reasons why I'm still stuck doing this job.
You are not stuck.
The select board had a process. They had some candidates. They were split vote on the town administrator position. But I think it's safe to say that a brand new person wasn't going to come in and try to lead the town through an override. Not that I can do any better, but part of their decision was likely because they were split, and the other part of it was because of finances. I mean, making a heck of a lot less than what they would be paying a town administrator right now, so we're saving money right there,
And
judging by what I'm giving you.
the money that, these positions you're talking about, they were budgeted. So they're vacant. So the full salary isn't being paid. So if we go through a year, like Mike was alluding to, he doesn't get paid as much as the town administrator would, so there'd be excess there that would go back. So the money is budgeted for those positions already.
So keep telling him what a great job he's doing.
I was just going to say that.
Great job. Is he the one bringing all these increases into?
No, he's not. You know, one more thing. When you look at the when you look at the healthcare, if you've been following the Daily Gazette, our local paper, Belchertown's share is over $1 million. Whately, I think, got hit for $900,000. You know, it has to do with the size of your pool of employees, and you know, not everybody in our employment is on our health care. So it worked out that this was our share was $800-something thousand between the 3 and the 500 hit. But all the towns have gotten this. This is an unprecedented failure in that healthcare pool. Normally, the increases have been reasonable. You know, what were they, 5-10% top? The chart I saw? Even less than that. This is just occurred. And they're taking some, they're changing some of their formularies for what they're allowing for people to use prescriptions, particularly these newer, very expensive ones for weight control. So they're going to cut back to only people with diabetes who have a medical reason. And also there have been some people with some very serious illnesses, and that's also, you know, it's a pool. So it also hurt the system, but that's what we were there for, was to cover people. But they're making changes. We're still investigating, is it better to stay in here? And I think all those other towns are going through the same thing, or are we going to find, is there some other alternative that would save us money or be moving forward more stable in terms of increases? I can tell you that the Wall Street Journal said that I think Aetna, all the top health insurance companies are predicting an 18% increase this year. Not municipal ones, for people who are paying for health care through those companies.
Ma'am.
I was going to say, I think you guys have done a really fabulous job on presenting everything. I'm not sure I understood everything, but you've convinced me that this is a worthwhile path to take. So I applaud you all for your dedication to the town.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, and if there's something you don't understand, feel free to ask any of us after.
Hi, everybody. Couldn't we save money by having the chief work 3 jobs?
We're trying, Andy.
When I moved to Hadley 30 years ago, somebody told me, we don't pay any taxes, but we don't get any services. And that was how the town wanted to do it. Now, over the past 15 years or so, we've added all these town services, which I think are really nice. It's good to know that if someone in Amherst needs an ambulance, I can still get an ambulance for myself in Hadley if I need one. Or if my house catches on fire, the fire department will be there after 7 o'clock. Those are nice services.
They'll be there after 7 no matter.
But now we have to pay for them. And if you like the services, if you like these new town services, we have to raise our taxes in order to pay for them. So if you don't want to go back to the old days where there was no one around to do anything, if you needed the town to do it for you, then you vote no. Right? I mean, is that a good summary?
100 years ago, this town needed something.
Go ahead.
I have a quick question about the stabilization fund. So once that, like if this passes and that's, funded, and, it has to be used, where does that normally get funded from?
Are you talking about the capital stabilization, the override part of this, or the regular stabilization? There's two different stabilization funds. There's the capital stabilization that we're asking for the override for, and then there's your regular stabilization fund, which is kind of your rainy day account. This is your emergency account.
Yeah,
So
that one.
this one. So this stabilization fund only goes down on spending and generally will increase based upon what's the word I'm looking for, Linda? Investments. So we don't put money into this regularly. The capital one will, after if the 300,000 is added to it, that will increase based upon that Prop 2.5 part. So it will continue to grow, and granted, we will spend it down and then it'll grow again. No problem. Yes.
Not a question, it's just a comment. I regularly attend Hot Topics and Coffee with a Cop. One thing I've learned from Hot Topics is...
Can you put that up?
One thing I've learned from Hot Topics is that fire trucks can't roll until they get two people on the trucks. And a lot of times, that's the chief and the deputy. And that doesn't leave anybody to fight the fire. So, if we lose those new people that have added, our home insurance rates are going to go up because of the way the insurance rates are determined, approved by the state. So that's one other way that if this doesn't pass, it's going to hurt everybody who owns a house.
Thank you.
Yes.
Peter.
The other thing I want to say is, as far as, the ambulance service, it's excellent. I got 2 rides in February, 2 separate days for a fall. When the things came through from Medicare for that each ride, which was billed at over $1,000, they got 99. And my health insurance, which I'm fortunate there too, doesn't have to pay, only what co-pays there are from things. So that's one of the reasons your receipts from ambulance aren't what.
Yep.
There's a good reason why they're not there.
Good point. Peter.
I guess the question is when we had a full call force, did you notice a reduction in your home insurance because we had a full-time fire department? There probably wasn't. Within the past 7 years, we've had hired 29 employees. Think about that, 29 employees in 7 years. When you were talking about questions, you're kind of not too sure about the numbers. Everybody likes flat numbers. When it comes to if your house is $350,000, your taxes are going to be $4,800. In 5 years, for the 2.5%, it's going to go up to $5,400. So in 5 years, from what was $4,800 is now going to be $5,400. It's going to go up to $600 in 5 years. So think of those that are the fixed incomes that you have. Arthur, you're saying of how much, whatever it is for your Social Security, you have to think about that. I know they were saying that there is some sort of assistance as to recording or doing something with the town or the state for getting a deduction in those taxes, but I believe that a lot of people in this town are smart when it comes to their investing, that they are still making more than the minimum for applying for those deductions. So you were wondering, not too sure about the numbers. $350,000, it's going to go up in 5 years from $4,800 to almost $5,400. That's $600, and that does not include assessment increases.
How many houses are at that,
At 350?
Yeah.
Probably not that many.
So assessments
Listen,
go
in
up and
town.
down. Just for the record, assessments go up and down. That's why the
Just
chart
like the
is not
rates.
stagnant and flat. You go up, you go down. You have your peaks, your valleys, and that's so. Just he's right. Assessments change, but y'all also have a history of going down.
Yep.
So
Or when the assessments go up, the rates go down. When your assessments go down, the rates go up. I mean, where there is this whole idea of the 2.5%, Prop 2.5, or the 2.5% cap that we have on raising, is for the pool in the town. It's not each individual person's tax is going to go up 2.5. It's the entire pool. And so even if assessments within the town go up a lot, we're still only going to be able to raise the taxes that we raised last year plus 2.5%. It would just mean a lower assessment. So the taxes don't go up with increased assessments.
We also generally have new growth every year, and that has an effect on that rate as well.
So if I can, I want to add one more thing. Because this is a change in the economy that's squeezing us on expenses because of massive inflation, wage inflation, general inflation. Anybody bought eggs? Okay. Well, everything that the town buys went up in price, from paper to pencils to equipment. I mean, we agreed to buy a fire truck. It's $2 million. What was a fire truck that you remember? Bart?
25 bucks.
The one that was always on our front?
Yeah.
Was a horse drawn.
One, okay. All right. So I mean, seriously, it's remarkable, okay? You know, so my point is that we are in a vortex of inflationary costs right now, and we've been using our savings account to balance our budget. If we hadn't done that, and we had instead had a way to, well, we've done an override every year to increase because of that squeeze. We had increased your taxes a little bit, you'd be right where we are now, only you've been paying for it for 4 years. Okay? When I first got on this board, we were already taking $500,000 a year out of our free cash, right off the get-go, to balance budgets. Okay? So let's think about that. But can you go back to the slide with the free cash, please? That was the snapshot at the end of '24. But if in '21, '22, and '23, and '24, we hadn't used let's just use $500,000, we'd have had $2 million more, so we'd have had $3 million at the end. We'd be paying more taxes, but we'd have a $3 million pool in there. So we could have just bought that fire truck and still had $1 million left. What we are doing to go forward so that we don't have to come back in 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or 10 years is we're not going to touch free cash for those things. It's not going to balance the budget because we're going to replenish that fund, and we are going to do our best to control expenses. We're going to be very tight on any filling of positions. Now, we have positions that are unfilled right now. Some of those may have to be looked at, but many of them are essential that we have to have by statute and otherwise. So we're going to have to fill them. That's what we're trying to do, is maintain service. Okay? Yeah, we added jobs. What did we add? We added dispatchers. How many dispatchers approximately?
Two
in the last
7 years.
How many new police officers?
In the last 7 years, maybe 1, 2.
Okay, and some of those were done because we were using overtime with existing people, and they did an analysis and they said, gee, we're spending more on overtime than we could for 2 people, so we can have a net savings, but we add 2 people. Okay, this town has been very well run, and I know Peter and I disagree on a lot of things on the budget, and I respect that, but I don't think it's a spending problem. I think it's an inflation problem. And we're all feeling it at home. We're all feeling it at, businesses that, if you run a business or you work somewhere, you see what it's costing you again and again and again. And I understand that. And I know people are going to have an increase in taxes that is going to be scary for some of you. Okay? But we are trying to right this ship, to get it back on the course it should be on, with tight fiscal management, putting aside money for the unexpected stuff like health care, protecting our employees as a place to work, to get efficiencies out of them. And we're also going to be looking very hard at any attempt to expand services is probably not going to happen. Now, we bought a number of buildings. We've replaced some really old buildings in this town. And we have some surplus buildings that we're going to have to make some very hard decisions about, no matter how romantic it is to say, let's do something with it, okay? We may have to make hard decisions, but town meeting's going to be part of that, okay? The vote we're asking you to do at this special town meeting is not approve, quote-unquote, this override. It's essentially to approve it to let the general population of voters who can't attend that meeting have a chance to decide. That's democracy. Let's give everybody in the town, because I've been to town meetings and there's only 100, 150, 200 people. I've been to a couple where there's 300 or 400 when there's something controversial on. This one may have a lot of people, but it doesn't represent the whole electorate. We have people who are working jobs, who for health reasons can't come to a meeting like that, and those folks deserve a say in this as well. But I believe that what we're doing is an important thing. I will tell you this, when we started having these discussions, we started out with a way lower number. This is a big number. It's 2.5 right now. We were thinking we were going to be about 1.3 million for the general override, and we actually wanted $500,000 for the maintenance capital, because the 300 is not a lot of money when you look at what it costs to replace equipment and fix things. We had to put that down when we got this hit from the healthcare. Completely blindsided everybody. Okay? So we've lowered that number. I think it's an all or nothing in my view, because we want to fix all these problems and get it done. And we can't trust that after doing, like we had split this in half and said, okay, we need $1 million, $1.5 million this year, and then we'll come back for another $1 million next year. I think that's the wrong way to do it in this town. I think we need to be honest with you, tell you what the situation was, how we're going to try and prevent this type of squeeze from happening again, and put in some new communication between Finance Committee, Planning, and the Select Board. And by the way, on the planning side, they're looking very hard at trying to come up with adjustments to our zoning that will bring in new revenue. So in the last few years, we put in senior housing. We just expanded that overlay all the way down to I think it goes to Bay Road. So we have a new project that's going to happen that the Chardot-Palmars family's doing. They're still in, building, planning stage, but they can now build a senior housing project there that will bring in revenue for us.
How much is that going to cost the town with the sewer and everything else to bring it in?
They pay, it actually creates revenue. It creates revenue because the seniors aren't going to be putting kids into our schools, okay? They're going to bring their grandkids in, they're going to take them out to eat, and then when they do that, we get some revenue from the meals tax, okay? They're going to be living here and spending money here, and we're going to create a nice home for them, and they'll come here and meet other seniors, okay? They're going to be people from our town, too. It's not just outsiders who are coming here. But we need to look at those things. Many years ago, we expanded a zone to allow Lowe's to build there. That's created some jobs. It's created a lot of tax revenue for us. We need to look at the corridor that we have given up to preserve all the farmland and beautiful views and, of Hadley. And what else can we squeeze in there by changing our zoning a little, because things change. Nobody wants to build an office building these days. But they might want to put in a restaurant, or they might want to put in another hotel, or any number of other things that we don't know about. Okay? Northampton, there was an article in the paper the other day that a car dealership is not being allowed to put in on a site that's been vacant. Used to have a car dealership, a Honda dealer. It's been vacant for 18 years, and their zoning is stopping that from going there, so the company is dropping the entire car line. That's amazing to me. That wouldn't happen in this town. We would find a way to get that revenue. In fact, I'd love to see them come over here and we could maybe sell them something else. But
How many of these people in the mall are ever going to stay in business? And then what do we do?
Well, that's a problem for us, actually, is one of our malls is having financial difficulties. And we're going to need to look at our zoning there to see what we can do to attract something new if they pull out.
Okay, gentlemen, we have somebody.
Yep, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. My understanding in most towns is that the commercial tax rate is higher than the personal or residential tax rate. Do I understand that that's not true in Hadley?
We don't.
And if so, why?
Well, we don't have a split tax.
Paul, I'll answer that.
Okay, go ahead.
So, what you're saying is true. The question has come up several times. The problem in this town is you cannot, or in any town for that matter, but because of the way this town is composed, you cannot. Hello. You can't put a higher rate on Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, and then a lower rate on the other businesses in town. So not only would the big businesses be affected, but the small businesses would too, and part of the small businesses in this town are farmers. They're considered commercial, so they would get whacked as well. So that is why we don't have a split tax rate.
Because their farms or businesses?
Yes, they would be charged, all the farms would be charged a commercial tax rate.
But if you look
Could you split that so there's an agricultural tax rate?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an assessor, so I can't answer that for you.
But you'd still be taxing local entrepreneurs. I know there's a perception that every business in this town is a chain, but it's not. If you go from, specifically if you go from the mall to the bridge, it's all entrepreneurs. It's all local. And in fact, even some of the businesses that are nationals are actually franchisees that are local people. So they may be running, I'll just say a chicken place, fried chicken outlet, but it's a local company, even though it says it's some national company. It's a local person who owns it. So you're going to increase taxes at a higher rate. We do give certain people in the town a break on taxes, and that's the farmers. Okay, we do by not charging. You just passed a lower rate for the water bills.
Correct.
Okay, but everybody else will pay a little more
because the rate has to be absorbed somewhere. So it still has to balance. So if they're paying less, somebody's paying more to get the scale back. One time last year, I took a ride down Route 9 with someone else driving, thank you, and I had a counter in my hand, and we went from the bridge to the Amherst line and back, and I counted every sign for a business on my side, and then coming back, there were 143 businesses on Route 9, not counting up and down 47. Our town has a lot of small businesses. Randy has a business. Molly has a business. Paul has a business.
And I have business tenants who are all local people.
Peter does. Peter has one too.
And there are a lot of landlords who have businesses. So we just need to, and if you raise the business tax, people aren't going to want to come here. They come here because we have low taxes and it's a good place to start a business. So that would scare people away. I need somebody over here.
Sir.
To put things into perspective, I thought about $72 being the medium increase, or 76. That's 1 month, one nice dinner that you have to leave out. And I think that what we have in this town is commendable. It's why I moved here. And I think that putting things into perspective kind of makes some sense.
Thank you.
Right.
Hopefully everybody in town can pay their taxes and make some money. Probably the only people in town, only business, is the dairy. We haven't made a profit in over 5 years, and we don't need a profit. We can still run our farmers, the dairy farmers, quietly. can operate and not make money. We've been doing it, and probably will forever. But the other farmers, they can't farm and lose money.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Any other questions?
Yeah, Ray had one in the back.
Yeah, I heard Peter say 29 people have been hired in the last 7 years, and 20, it sounds like there was, I'm just looking, Mike, I'm looking at your, I took your advice, I went to the website and I found it, and there was 22 full-time employees that have been hired in the last 7 years? Is that, am I just reading that chart right?
It's FTEs.
That's FTEs, so that includes...
Full-time employees?
No, the full-time equivalent is what the E
full-time
stands for.
equivalent.
Correct.
Okay. Is there
Correct. So that includes part-time and full-time. So the 29 total people, that can be something like last night at the select board meeting, the select board hired a assistant library circulation substitute. That counts in the 29 people that Peter was talking about. And that person's not getting paid unless somebody else is absent and they work. So people like that count towards that 29.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
The 29 includes the 22, correct?
The 29 are actual human beings, but the 22 is how we calculate full-time equivalency. It's a human resources way to do things.
Totally
Yeah.
understand. That's not where I was going with my question.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're confusing me more now. Actually, no. I was just wondering. You said you had maybe one officer hired in the last so many years. I mean, is there a breakdown on how many people we've hired, or what positions that have been filled, and what positions are new or have been created in the last 7 years?
We actually were trying to gather that since yesterday because we had been talking about it at the buy board meeting.
I think that
it'll take a little longer for us to find the new positions because we have to look at each department and see what they added. We can give you today the people that have been hired since the positions that have been hired for the last 15 years. The problem is that they're not new positions. The vast majority of them are vacancies and were filled.
Retired, things like that.
So we can certainly get that, though.
That should be easy to get, but I'm just wondering, brand new position,
Correct. And on top of that, last night after our meeting, I actually went home and wrote a policy that I finished today specific to what was being discussed at the buy board meeting last night about how we can add checks and balances to the system when a department wants to add a new position. So we're going to be putting those types of things into place as we move forward to make sure that if a department head wants to add someone new or add hours, they have to go through several different steps and prove it to many different boards, so to speak, levels.
It shouldn't be a want problem. It should be a
100%.
need problem.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that those steps weren't already taken. I just don't know that it's in writing at this point. So
thank you for doing that last night. That's great work, and I'm sure Randy will sign your time sheet. Thank you.
Art, hang on. Get a microphone if you're going to talk, please. Chris? Art, hang on 1 minute. Go ahead. Ms. Pipchinsky talk first.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, this has to pass town meeting and then go to a ballot.
Correct.
No, it's got to pass twice.
That's what she just said.
That's what I just said.
The first one is...
Art, let us explain. Thank you, Art. We can handle this. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Explain.
So what I'm saying is that, to be honest, I can't always make town meeting due to a family situation, though I would like to have a say in whether or not this passes. So what, there's no harm in pushing forward at the town meeting and encouraging people to push it forward at the town meeting, and then letting the voters decide whether or not it passes. Because I don't feel that it is a benefit to all of us to have 200 people decide whether or not it passes versus the town. So
Of
does
course,
that-
we'd like all 2,000 people to show up at the town meeting.
Right. You know.
And could you have the school ready for that, please?
I'll give it a shot, but, you know, but the fact is that town meeting is not always easy to get to. And I think that it's only fair that we push towards having it be a town-wide vote.
And to that means, last night, we also approved early voting either in person or by ballot for the September 29th.
But that's not
ballot
town
date.
meeting, Jane. We got to
No,
get there.
We've got to get there. It's got to get through town meeting, like you're saying, and if it goes to the ballot, then we have arranged for, you don't have to show up on that day to vote.
So, to your point, I believe that several of us are definitely, if not all of us, in agreement with what you just said, and that we will push at town meeting to make sure people understand that, yes, we want to hear what you have to say, but please, even if you're not in favor, vote for it so that it can go to the ballot box, so that more people can be involved in the process.
Exactly. Yep.
Did I do all right, Art?
You did.
Thank you.
So, give the date.
All right, hey, listen, we look at this stuff and we see, as I sit here right now and we look at what we have passed at the town, let's start with the athletic fields at Hopkins. We got, well, we spent over $2 million, I think, without knowing the thing.
That's
We
CPA
got
money.
twice the amount of field first that we had before. And the fields right now, except where the baseball field was, is no better than it was 100 years
Okay,
ago.
what's that got to do with the override, Art?
All right, let's tell it quick. In the future, if you're gonna spend money, throw it out the window like you've been doing. You better make sure we need it. Number one, the highway department garage. There ain't any reason in the world to spend $2 or $3 million or $500,000 to build a new building down there. They've been doing fine for 10 years.
Okay,
And
what's
they
that
could
got to do with the,
do fine going forward.
what's that got to do with this override, Art?
You think you got this? Are you coming back next year? You've been coming for 5 years, 10 years for override. Next year you're going to be back here, even though you said you aren't, but you will be.
Time will tell. We're
Especially-
hoping not to. We need to move on, Art. Andy?
Go ahead.
Hi, I just want to talk about the town meeting for a second. It's not going to be like a normal town meeting where it drags on for hours and hours unless Art speaks. It's just one issue. 2 issues, right, and 2 votes. So it won't be painful, like a trip to the dentist. So if you only come to one town meeting in your whole life, this should be the one that you come to. Can you remind me, when was the last 2.5 override that we had?
This town has never done an
General
override.
or for a capital?
No, I know we've had capital overrides.
Never done 2.5.
Never.
Never had a general override.
Okay, so
Never.
one has never passed ever, so this would be the
Never asked
first.
for it.
Once.
Right,
Tried it once.
We tried once, it didn't pass.
right.
We tried once,
Late 80s.
The 80s,
late 80s.
Yeah, but don't feel bad. This one will pass easy.
That's a pretty good run, because in a lot of the capital overrides, they pass town meeting and then they go down in the vote.
Correct.
It's only 150 people at town meeting, it's only 1,200 people voting. So if you want to save town services, please talk to your neighbors and tell them how important it is that this pass. That's the key to setting up our financial future of this town. It will give us a jump start on the difficult economy that is coming. and will set us up for success. And, you know, sharp pain now means less pain later. To soft soap it now means it'll be worse in the future. So please keep that in mind, and I encourage people to talk to their neighbors and to vote yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. I think we've talked enough today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
To reiterate what Andy just said, please come to town meeting and get as many people as you can to come, because this is how this town operates, and the more people that come, the better everybody can feel about it, because when 150 people make a decision, there's plenty of people that get upset because they didn't agree with it, but they didn't come to town meeting. So please come. Thank you all for coming to this.
Hey, listen, are we going to have a paper vote?